So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people that are using live ammunition on peaceful protesters. And, these are the sort of people that can look down the scope of their guns and then see a face of a 17-year-old girl and decide to pull the trigger.
Can I pause for a second and just note that we got Brian on here who's getting Congressman Massey on, and our typical lineup includes like homeless people that believe in Bigfoot.
Welcome to the Brian Nichols Show, your source for common sense politics on the We Are Libertarians Network. The Brian Nichols Show is the fastest growing liberty podcast that brings together people from all means of political thought as we seek to have meaningful conversations about the issues you care about. At the Brian Nichols Show, our goal is to leave the audience educated, enlightened, and informed. And now your host, Brian Nichols.
Well, happy Monday there, folks. Brian Nichols here on the Brian Nichols Show. Thank you for joining on today's very special and important episode. An episode, it's a little more, I don't say dark by any stretch of the imagination, but more so something that we need to talk about and something that really hasn't been talked about, and that's what's happening over in Myanmar. Now, I'm not sure if you folks have found yourself scrolling through the interwebs and being like, I know something's happening going on over in Myanmar. What is happening? What is going on? And you really haven't been able to find maybe too much information, right? So let's go ahead and talk to some folks who actually know what's going on, who actually have some friends, family live on the ground experiencing what's happening firsthand. So today we have a roundtable discussion. A good friend from college, Weya, is joining us along with some friends, Jan and Nine, talking about, yes, exactly what is happening in Myanmar right now. And I think it's a great conversation, especially for us in the liberty world to enter into, saying, hey, we can help. We have solutions in place that can be of great value to helping avoid not only this rate, or rather fix what's happening in Myanmar, but also avoid this from happening in the future. So thank you to the awesome roundtable discussion here. So that being said, on to the show, Weya, Nine, and Jan here on the Brian Nichols Show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Ryan.
Absolutely. Team, thank you for joining us. What are we here today to talk about? Myanmar and Burma. Now, let's kind of set the stage. Wei and I go way back, good old college friends, and he had posted some very shocking images that I had not seen, and it was people raising up awareness to what's happening over in what is Myanmar and otherwise known as Burma, correct? And what we're seeing right now is a complete, really, breakdown of the political system. And I don't think it's being talked about, and it needs to be talked about. In what's really disappointing, I'm coming from more of the greater libertarian circles, which are very focused on limiting foreign intervention, trying to help raise up awareness of whenever you have these really awful authoritarian examples of really the monopoly on force being used against people. So let's kind of set the stage here, guys. I don't want to try and paint a picture where I think you guys could easily paint it more effectively than I could. So let's kind of do jump ball here. And I'll say between the three of you, you have a wealth of experience. But before we start, how about this? Weya, Jan, Nine, let's do a quick introduction and then we'll set the stage here to the Myanmar and Burma situation.
I can start. Hello, everyone. My name is Weya, and I really appreciate Brian for having us here. Yeah, we go way back to Elmira College. I'm currently in West Virginia going to school, and I met Jan and Nine at one of the most recent protests that was held in Washington, D.C. for Myanmar.
I'll go next. So my name is Nine. I'm with the Freedom, Justice, Equality Movement group here in the D.C. metro area. We also have a ground team in Yangon in the city in Burma, and we work in conjunction with them to start protests and bring in supplies and things like that. And right now I'm a third year junior at the University of Maryland.
Yeah, and I'm Jen. I'm a Kitchen American student activist and advocate with Action Corps, which is a grassroots organization, and also STAND, the student-led movement to end mass atrocities, as well as Kitchen Alliance, and now GM4MD, which stands for Global Movement for Myanmar Democracy. It's an organization that just came about in response to this February 1st coup. So it's very recent. We just propped up shop, but we have members from all over the diaspora in many countries all over the world. So yeah, it's a broad reach, and we've done so much so far. And I'm just really happy to be here. So thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Well, all three of you have a great resume, especially with your age. I'm astonished to see how much you've already accomplished, especially you, Jan. Like what, 4 organizations that you just casually have been a part of? So how about this? Let's start off setting the stage about the topic at hand. And this is probably something I would say 90% of people don't know is happening, which is horrifying to me. So I think it's important to almost start off with a what basically biography of what's happening here. So jump ball in terms of setting the stage. What is number one? What is this conversation of how we got to the point where we had the February 1st coup, and then number two, how we've gotten to the point now where we've seen, I think it was like latest number 700 or so civilians who've been killed by the military. So jump ball in terms of who wants to help set the stage here for us.
Of course, I guess begin, and then Jinjet and I could definitely, they have more knowledge than I do for sure. So from what I know is it started on February 1st, where the military took over like the governmental power. So that was like post-election where people have been democratically elected. All those elected individuals, including the government officials such as the president and the chancellor and a lot of parliament's members were detained the night of February 1st, and then they declare a military coup, and then they're saying that they were saying voter frauds, and they wanted to make sure that they just came up with excuses to just take power from like legally elected individuals. And that's when it started. And then, majority of the Burmese people who voted for the elected individuals, they were like not going to stand for it, especially the young people. So they have decided to bring it to the street and protest peacefully. And it has always been a peaceful protest. And the aggression and the violence was started by the military coup. They just started shooting. First, it started with water. They just hosing people down, and then they start using rubber bullets, and then to the point where it's real bullets. They are raiding into houses and just killing just for the sake of killing.
Wow.
Yeah, and
go ahead, Nine. Sorry. Yes, please.
Thank you. Yeah. So the military. So this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people that are using live ammunition on peaceful protesters, and these are the sort of people that can look down the scope of their guns and then see a face of a 17-year-old girl and decide to pull the trigger. So, to set the stage, back in November of 2020, the NLD party, the National League for Democracy, won a landslide victory in the elections. Over 80% of the population, or 80% of the voting population voted for them. And on February 1st, like Weya said, the military decided to do a coup and instill martial law and promised that there will be elections the next year, but the people weren't having it because the democracy in Burma is so young and so fragile that any sort of disruption could just eliminate all the progress that's been gained by the people and by the NLD party.
Gotcha. Yeah. And Jen, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I mean, I think Weya and Nine pretty much summed it up very nicely. I think the only thing is maybe we need to emphasize who this military is. I think it's easy for like any common person who doesn't really know much about Burma to just be like, oh, it's just another military coup. It's over an election fraud, etc. But it's really it's not even about just an election fraud. This is something that is about freedom and democracy, and literally just about persecution of ethnic minorities over decades, like 7 decades, 70 actually, sorry, 7 decades, yes, 70 plus years. And people have had enough of this at this moment. So it's really more than just a military coup that's taken over. It's more of a revolution at this point, where people are so fed up. It's almost been a century, and there's so many other underlying causes that are at hand that are happening right now that a lot of people maybe don't know much about or tend to gloss over. And I just want to let people know that this is actually just a hot topic issue, but there's so much more. It's like an iceberg. This is just the thing that we see at the surface, but it's really been a lot of years of social issues just going on way behind this, even before this. And yeah, like the people we're dealing with here is the military, the Myanmar military, and they have been known to be very violent, and they literally just shoot, and they will not even care. Like, they're really isolated from society, to the point that they just live in their own reality. They really don't see what's happening, and they truly do think that they are protecting the will of the people by being out on the streets, which is pretty ironic. But yeah, just want to also touch upon that. Maybe we can do that a little bit more in this call, but who are we dealing with? It's really like this psychotic, really brainwashed military that has been a system in place for many years now that has gone with impunity, killing civilians, left unchecked. And it's really crazy that, things have come to the way they have right now in this manner. But at the same time, there's also another thing that I'd like to highlight, which is the ethnic unity that has come about this, as a result of this military coup. It's something that has never been seen before. It's unprecedented. So for that reason, we really do, a lot of people, not just us in the diaspora, but a lot of people even on the ground and everywhere else, friends of Myanmar, we're all so hopeful that this revolution will actually prevail and will have success in the end.
I definitely
That was a lot. Sorry, wait. I just really quick. Wow, that's a lot, because I think your average person hears that, and this is probably the first time that they're hearing this information. Which this is why we're doing this, right? This is a story that people need to be hearing, and I'm so thankful that it is the younger generations who are really leading this charge, because when you look at what's, and Jen, you laid this out perfectly, it is the military. And what does the military ultimately have? And we all know, and we learned this, right? Monopolies are bad, but what do they have? The monopoly on violence. In this case, they have the guns, and they're pointing them right at the civilians. And it's heartbreaking, because these are supposed to be the people who are enforcing the will of the people, not turning their guns against the people. So I think it is very important for us to really acknowledge, and I'm saying this to Americans particularly who listen to this program, that this isn't something that is just pie in the sky stuff that happens in movies. This is happening right now, and it's impacting real people. So wait, I didn't mean to interrupt you, bud. Go ahead. I'll let you go ahead and continue forward.
Oh, no, it's like I was just saying, like, I definitely agree with Jen, because this kind of thing have happened in Burma, like in the past multiple times, where the military don't get their way and they take it over, and then and people just stay quiet. But this is what we're seeing, like we're a new thing where we have so many ethnic minority in Burma. We have like we were just talking about it yesterday. We have over like 70 different languages that I'm not even aware of. Like, so Jen herself, she is Kachin, and Nine is one of the she's half Rakhine. I'm full Burmese, but where there's so many different type of different type of languages in Burma. This is the first time in history where all of us are coming together to say, stop, we've had enough of it, because like they've been targeting many different ethnic groups at different time and different locations, and now everyone is coming together to say like, hey, sorry, like this is our voice matter, like all of our voice together matters. And it's great that, like, honestly, when I went to the protest for the first time in DC, I was like awed to see all these young people, like even Jen and I, they're younger than us, Brian. So when I met them, I was like, wow, this is incredible. Like they know so much more than I do, and I'm just like stunned by that. And people who are leading these protests in Burma too are young people. That's why it is so heartbreaking for me to see all these young people dying. Like the youngest person that died, like who was leading a protest in Burma, was like 15 years old. Like that's just incredible. Like it's just unthinkable. It just, I don't know, for me to be here. Like another thing we talked about last night, for us to be here, we have that survivor guilt, in a way where like we're like, wow, like if we were there right now, we would not just sit around. We will still protest. We'll go on the street and we'll make sure that the voice of our voice and our family's voice will be heard. And we will be in the same situation with these people. Like, what are we to just sit here and do nothing?
No, but hold on really quick. And I want to make sure we're setting the record straight. You guys are not doing nothing, because even just you coming on the show today is so monumental in terms of helping raise up the awareness for this way. Because, I mean, otherwise, the government over in Myanmar would have such a control from the narrative. And you guys have a chance right now to use a platform like this to reach tens of thousands of people to tell the truth, to say what's actually happening. And this is something that 15, 20, 30 years ago would be completely inconceivable. But now we're starting to see this change really take off, because it is the younger generations who, as technology starts to advance and becomes more status quo, and we start to see the exponential advancements, it's like, well, goodness, now we can communicate. And hey, if Elon Musk has his way, we're going to be having this conversation in our brains sooner or later. So, Naya, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. What were you going to continue forward? Sorry.
No, yeah. I'll tell you this, though. This is not the first time a military coup has happened. It happened once in 1962. It happened again in 1988 when my parents were in college. But this time around, it's different, because the people that the military are dealing with are young, vibrant, tech-savvy, people. They're not going to stand around for anything. Like when I see the protests, the protesters, they have their homemade shields, really savvy and witty. My parents, when they were at the protest, they didn't have any of that, So it's just like little things like that. And like Waya was saying, talking about, survivor's guilt. I saw a video when the coup started of two kids. They were dragged out of their homes and then they were beaten, like animals for supposedly breaking curfew. And those kids lived 5 doors down from my house in Burma. So, us here in America, we can easily say like that could have been us. They're targeting like, people that are like us, people who are, young and energetic, and, they want this young democracy to continue to go.
So I'm curious, and I don't mean to make this a political, like a political issue charge, but we see this in America a lot where people are like, well, why do you need a Second Amendment? And then I'm like, look what's happening right now. Do you think that that might be an issue with the populace not being able to defend themselves against the government?
I'm not sure, honestly. I think that Burma has a very like rich history of being nonviolent and very peaceful people in general. Like Min was Nai was saying, sorry. These kind of protests happened in the past, and then they've always been peaceful, and like they've never gone beyond what they need to protest themselves. They've never like gone out and like harmed some people in order to protect themselves. They've always been like they're making shields. They're doing sit-ins and stuff like that. And like for me, like I don't ever want to get to the point where like both parties are dying. You know what I mean? It's just like I don't know. Maybe I'm like world peace, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I will say though that the National Unity Government, or maybe it was a CRPH, which stands for the Committee Representing Parliamentary House. It's the interim government that's been propped up right now, and they actually have come out with a statement, telling civilians that you do have the right to bear arms and protect yourself. So,
wow,
in defense, and that definitely raised a lot of eyebrows, and a lot of questions about, is this the right path to be taking or not? Because at this point, it also does tie into like questions about nonviolent protesting. How much effect does that hold, and how much longer can you put up with that, and like are the people going to be able to withstand that, because there is a breaking point, and I feel like it is coming, and it has come sort of. People have actually started to throw stuff into the streets, put bombs and stuff, just to retaliate, and defend themselves as well. And people have been, especially young people, they've been building barricades on the streets just to be able to save their people and just keep their neighborhoods safe, pretty much.
This is reminding me a little bit of the Hong Kong protests. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with that, but I mean, 2 years ago, right before COVID, really, at the end of 2019, essentially, beginning of 2020, we saw Hong Kong was on their last legs, really trying to stand against this Chinese takeover, and it inevitably did happen. And I'm seeing kind of this almost rhyme, this echo almost of what we saw happen in Hong Kong. Are these at all related in terms of the sentiments, this populist sentiment that maybe is resonating through Myanmar right now?
I would say that in terms of solidarity, yes. The entire country is against this military. There's not a person that is for it unless you're inside the military itself, or like working underneath the military regime. For the most part, it's 100%. Yes, we want to take down this military. Like we've had enough of it, 70 plus years already, enough is enough. So in that sense, everyone's just really out here fighting for their freedom, for their basic human rights, and for their democracy, a federal one.
Exactly. This is what I have gathered from since the coup started. I have talked to people from Burma that I've made friends with from visiting Burma and stuff like that. So I was talking to Nina's Gen 2. From what I've heard from these younger people that are in Burma right now, they just feel like their future and their hope has been ripped away from them since February 1st. They just feel like, I have so much plans to go to this school. Now I have so much plans to go travel, and I have so much plans to, do this for my family. I have my sister, my biological sister is in Burma, and I have a niece who is about to go to 10th grade. 10th grade is a very big deal in Burma, And then everything is you just take a remote and put a pause on it. All of their lives has been paused, and not for the better. It's just they're what do we do from this point on? So that basically they're fighting for their actual future. They're the will to keep going.
Yeah, well, I mean, and add on top of it, they just went through an entire year plus of probably society being shut down. I know here in the United States, right? We in some places they're still shut down. So you do see, right, this overarching theme of people, this indefinite pause, and right now what's happening in Myanmar, it's heartbreaking. So I think as we're getting ready to point towards the end of the show, let's talk to folks in terms of some action items. And part of the way I approach my show is trying to paint a better future. And I know right now, you set it up, there doesn't seem to really be too much of a better future for some folks there, but there are organizations out there. Jan, you were hitting on it, Nine, you were touching on it as well, that are starting to raise awareness to this. And I think raising up those organizations is super important. So jump ball in terms of helping guide the audience to where they can start to go ahead and support raising up awareness, number one. But number two, if there's anything in terms of raising money, fund, so on and so forth, please jump ball, help us out.
Yeah, for
Absolutely.
sure. I want again to hit on so that you were talking about CRPH and the new government that has brought about from because of the coups. I want you to I don't have that much knowledge of it, but I want Jen to hit on that a bit more before we get into the fundraisers and stuff like that. That's okay with you.
Absolutely, yeah. So in terms of advocacy, globally, we're asking for the world to just cut the cash, cut the weapons, and cut the impunity, and recognize the National Unity Government, also abbreviated as NUG or the NUG. And what this means is when we ask for people to cut the cash, we're asking for sanctions, and not broad-based economic sanctions, but targeted sanctions that actually will hit the military and their pockets. So far, the U.S. has been able to enact sanctions against the gem industry, as well as MEC and MEL, which are the top two military conglomerates over there. But there's more that can be done. And so we're advocating for sanctions to also be enacted upon other sectors, like the Myanmar oil gas economic corporation, or just oil and gas companies in general. And we can do this by targeting Chevron, for example, which is an American company that functions over there. And there are petitions, which I will be linking you guys to. There's a petition on Chevron that you can check out on Action Network, and it's available by, I think it's underneath, what is it? Simon Billenness's International ICR, International Committee, or for the Rohingya, or International, sorry, ICR, International.
Don't worry, because even regardless, we're going to have the link in the show notes. So if it's just easier for folks to go ahead and look at their little smartphone and just click that little button too. So that link will be there. No worries.
Perfect. And then on to the next advocacy asks. When we're asking for cutting the weapons, we're asking for countries to sign on to a unilateral global arms embargo. So ideally, this would have been done in the UNSC, but because there's China and Russia there, they're going to be vetoing it, of course. And because of that, we have partners in the UK who actually already came out with this unilateral agreement that other countries can sign on to. And I don't know if you've been catching up with the news, but South Korea, for example, has signed on to this. And if you've heard that, South Korea is not dealing with arms anymore with Burma, that means that they've signed on to that unilateral arms embargo. So that's a result of that. And if we can get as many countries on board as possible, that would be amazing. So the way you could do that is also just petition your own countries to sign on to that. And then on the third advocacy ask, when we're asking for cutting the impunity, we're asking for, a referral to the ICC. And what this looks like is it could go down in 10 years or so. It's going to be a long process, but nevertheless, it's always really good to still keep on the minds of people, just to keep it on the agenda. It's in the, it's going to be a long process, but it's worth just fighting for. And when we're asking for recognition for the NUG, we are asking for governments to literally just recognize it, because this is something that actually can be done at the governmental level. And we do have higher level advocacy persons who are in contact with, governments all around the world, just talking from government to government, asking them to, what their inhibitions are or what their setbacks are for not being able to recognize. And it all comes down to the politics of it, which is really silly, but there's this, I'm sure you might have heard of it, like the notion of recognizing states, not governments, And so what's happening right now is a lot of governments have not come out to recognize the NUG yet. The only country that has so far is the Czech Republic. Other than that, no other countries are out yet. So we're actively working on this and asking people to really just petition the United States. The United States already supports the NUG, so there's not much problem with that. But I think the only thing is just letting other people know, and all these other countries could really just get on board. It's a matter of just doing that, and at the end of the day, I feel like even though there's this notion of just, accepting or recognizing states and not governments, or who's in power, which is the military, that doesn't really matter because it comes down to the political will of the people, you know? So if there's a political will and you want your government to recognize the NUG, you can definitely by all means do that, you know? So just go ahead. And the governments themselves have that authority and that choice to make as well. And it's also a matter of proving the NUG as a worthy, you know, body, as a government that is functioning and is capable of, you know, representing the will of the people. So that's also something that we'll be working on, you know, and the NUG itself is just going to continue to develop on with the support of other governments. So yeah, it really all just comes down to international cooperation at the end of the day. This is literally all we're asking for, nothing else.
There you go, folks. Well, hey, unfortunately, we are already coming close to time. So I want to especially thank you guys for joining the show and raising awareness, because this is a topic that is so important. And right now, to your point, Jen, the United States has already been on board, but we can still raise awareness. I know there are tens of thousands of folks who listen to the show every week, and I look at those metrics, and they're all over the world. Granted, like 95% are here in the United States, but that 5% out there, especially if they're out in the greater Asian Pacific area, please do your part. Get involved and get aware. Start sharing this episode with folks. Please, it's important for us to raise awareness. And across the board, we'll include all the links we talked about here on today's episode in the show notes. Nine, Jan, and Weya, thank you so much for joining us here on today's episode of The Brian Nichols Show.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you so much.
Alrighty, folks, that's going to wrap up my conversation with Weya, Jan, and Nine. Thank you, all three of you, for joining the program, and thank you for helping raise awareness to what's happening over in Myanmar. This is so tragic and something that we need to be talking about more really honestly and openly here in America. This is something that is not being talked about. We need to be raising up our voices, and that's something I think we have an obligation to do, especially when it's impacting real people right now. So, folks, do me a solid. Please go ahead and share today's episode with family and friends. This is a conversation that transcends politics. It transcends political leanings. It's a humanity issue. So please make sure that folks know what is going on. We'll include all the links in the show notes so you can go ahead and support those over in Myanmar as well. So with that being said, folks, what do we have coming in store? Actually, before we get too far ahead, a couple of housekeeping notes. Well, number one, the download numbers keep going up through the roof, and I'm referring to you guys downloading the new ebook. I guess you guys like it. I've been getting some good feedback. And what's this ebook I'm talking about? It's 4 easy steps you can implement now to sell liberty to friends and family. Who wrote it? Me. I wrote it. My new ebook. That's right. And it's a free ebook for you. I will include that link in the show notes. But if you want to go ahead for the audio listener, it's briannicholsshow.com/Liberty Friends ebook. And what can you learn? Well, you're going to learn how to maybe ask better questions, make sure we're covering the real problems and uncovering objections. There's a lot of great stuff you're going to learn. And if you get value from the ebook, I'm going to ask you to please go ahead to our Patreon and consider becoming either a $5 or $10 per month patron. You become an entry-level sales or account executive. Either way, though, I'm going to help you pique interest. And that's because every single new Patreon subscriber gets one of these awesome Don't Hurt People, Don't Take People's Stuff bumper sticker. That's right. And I know just from experience, it is definitely piquing interest here in the greater Philadelphia area, because I've had people honking their horn, giving me thumbs up on I-76. And I'm like, in Philly, of all places? I think people are waking up, folks. People are starting to look for something different. And if you want to help join me in piquing some interest, by the way, we have some really cool plans coming up here. And I mentioned this last episode as well. Folks who are in the Patreon, please strap in. You'll be getting lots of info, lots of content coming down here in the next couple of weeks or so as we get things rolling. But I thank you for your support. Thank you for your patience. And I am so excited to show you guys where we're rolling, because I know I tease it in the little about me. Are you ready to help change the world? No, seriously, are you? Because this stuff works. Sales works. If you follow the methods that we're talking about over, not only here on the Brian Nichols Show, but over on the Patreon, I promise you 1000% that you are going to help accomplish liberty in our lifetimes. You will make more people's lives better. Right now, isn't that better than pie in the sky conversations about who's the best economist and talk about non-aggression principles and property rights? Like, yeah, that's important, but Is that going to help us get liberty in our lifetimes right now? Is your average person talking about that kind of stuff? Nope. So guess what? We're changing the conversation. We're showing you over the Brian Nichols Show Patreon how to have different conversations, how to pique interest in different ways. And folks, I would greatly appreciate you to hop on board and join along for the fun, because this is just the beginning. And hey, I get it. If you're like, Brian, I love the show. I can't do that right now. I can't make a $5, $10 per month contribution. I can't make that commitment. What can I do besides that? Well, here's what you can do. You can head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating and review. It costs you $0, and you can go ahead and do that. And your story of why you listen to the Brian Nichols Show, or you watch the YouTube version here every single week, 4 times a week, that will tell people what value you're getting, and that will tell them what value they can get. So I greatly appreciate, if you cannot do the $5, $10 a month Patreon, head over to Apple Podcasts, give us that quick 5-star rating and review. Coming up here on Wednesday, you know him from Young Americans for Liberty. He is one Eric Brakey, and he is joining the program. We're going to discuss all great things that Young Americans for Liberty is doing to help make liberty win. By the way, they have a brand new executive director as well. We get to learn about that. And is the GOP the pathway for liberty, or is it the LP? I know we've heard that debate between Eric and Dave Smith. I'm going to go ahead and pick Eric's brain, play a little devil's advocate, but also, hey, I get it. I see the value for the GOP in terms of advancing liberty. So we're going to have a great conversation to be had coming up here on Wednesday. So folks, make sure you've hit that subscribe button so you're not missing a single episode. Hit that notification bell over on YouTube. With that being said, folks, it's Brian Nichols signing off here on The Brian Nichols Show for Weah, Jan, and 9. We'll see you Wednesday.
Thanks for listening to The Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.